So he gave me, similar to the week before, of how to break down the different days. For day one, wanting to rest, and he specifically wanted me to make appointments with either people on Hello Talk or iTalki, or just maybe people I know on Facebook, and actually start practicing more French conversation. And so once I found those people, then I spend most of the rest of my time from day 2 to 8 having those conversations. The other thing that he wants me to do within that time frame, day 2 through 8, is start looking up different French topics that I'm interested in learning about more, that I feel like I'm struggling in. So I actually have already written down what areas I think I'm struggling in. So like, for example, tenses. You know, I've been seeing them in the sentences I've been making, or, you know, I'm hearing them, but I don't really know the basis behind the grammar for past, present, future, all of that, imperfect. So I feel like that is something I need to focus on to get a better understanding of that. And then like another area was pronunciation, because French pronunciation is really hard because it feels like they just delete half of their word. And so it feels like if I can practice the pronunciation, that will really help with my clarity in terms of my expression. And then things like learning some maybe school phrases, or things about hobbies or work related phrases. I think things that would relate to me, that would be interesting for me to learn in terms of vocabulary, or even certain phrases that would be good to learn in those areas. So I have those topics, so then my goal would be, you know, every day I can look into a topic and learn a little bit more about it. The one other thing he wants me to do is to find some type of media in French, like a few minutes long, and then be able to act it out. He wants me to record myself and try to mimic and be like that actor, which I totally see the importance of that, of being able to mimic the sounds and mimic the body language and things like that, so you can take in the French language much easier. But it's definitely gonna be a bit nerve-wracking to have to act out and record myself like that. So we'll see how my progress goes with that. And again, he had a bunch of bonus activities for me to do, but the one new one that he sort of added in was he wanted me to look for different children's songs, and that would help me learn about different topics I'm interested in. Like if I'm interested in learning in colors or numbers, but a lot of the times children's songs are very catchy, so like it's easier to remember the information you hear in a children's song. So what I ended up doing, just like I did for week 3, I kind of wish I did it for week 4 too, but I didn't. But I made another one of these checklists where for week 5 I have 4 different goals, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like for example, I say, you know, learning French topic, and my goal is to learn, you know, 1 French topic, you know, every day. And I have the days set out. Once I learn something, whether it's on YouTube or on a website, then I would write it down to know that I did something that day, and then I can kind of check it off my list. And then same thing, you know, here. So like my second goal is practicing French conversation, and my goal is to practice a French conversation for 15 minutes a day. And then my, you know, 2 other goals is finding that French media and acting it out, and then I would write down my progress with that. And then my last one is that bonus activity I talked about, which is listening to French children's songs and trying to at least listen to 1 a day. These kinds of sheets are helpful for me to visualize what I need to focus on, and making sure that I go through each one and get them all done each day. So I'm hoping that, you know, this is my last week, that I can push through and I can get everything done and show you how everything goes. Les semaines, je regardante.
J'ai regardé.
Regardé. Film français. For, how do you say for example?
Par exemple.
Par exemple. Je mange 2 tartines de pain.
Un grand pot de café.
Un grand pot de café. I'm here to give a quick update of how my week 5 is going. So I had my 4 different goals that I was trying to complete this week, and so I've been writing down what I've been doing every day. So for example, my first goal was to learn 1 French topic every day, and so far from Friday to now, today's Wednesday, I've actually been watching at least 1 grammar video a day, and I specifically have been using a channel called Learn French with Alexa. I found her channel on YouTube, and she had a lot of really good videos, very clear, able to understand the concepts really easily. So I just decided to stick with that one channel just to make it easier. And I've, watched through different videos of hers. So I mainly watched a lot of videos related to verb tenses, like learning the group 1 through 3 verbs, learning how to say the numbers in French, because saying numbers like 70, 80, 90 are a little bit different than how you would say other numbers. Like, I thought that the French numbers would be something easier to learn compared to, let's say, learning like the Asian number system, like when you learn Japanese, you learn Korean. Actually, this one was a little bit tougher for me because you kind of have to use a little bit of multiplication or addition to do the numbers. So, but I think once you get used to it, then it's not too bad. But I've been able to watch a French topic every day so far. I have a couple more days left for the week, so hopefully I'll keep going with that. Another goal that I had was to listen to a children French song, at least one a day. And I've been able to do that so far. There is a specific channel that I've been listening to. The name of the channel that I've been using is Learn French Through Music. And they have a lot of different little fun, short songs, learning like French colors, learning French animals, fruits, stuff like that. But I think it's like a fun way to kind of pick up vocabulary. So I've been listening to one song a day from Friday until today, Wednesday. So I'm gonna hopefully keep that up. And then my last 2 goals, one of them was to practice my French conversation skills. My goal was to practice every day for at least 15 minutes. The goal was to find a partner, whether through HelloTalk or iTalki or some platform, to practice conversation. So in the end, actually, I talked with my roommate, who she knew some friends who spoke French. So I actually connected with them, and then I had 1 hour actually conversation with this person 2 times in a week. And that actually was really great. Just those 2 conversations that I had with my friend's friend, I learned so much, and I felt like I understood a lot of the questions that he was asking to me, and that I was able to put maybe part of the sentence together in French, or I knew some of the words, but needed help putting it together in a full French sentence. But I actually felt comfortable, going back and forth on, certain basic topics, whether it's talking about myself or asking questions about him, things like that. So I felt like it grew my confidence having that conversation and feeling like I could actually talk about something in French after 5 weeks. And the days that I didn't have a scheduled conversation, I specifically talked to myself. I would spend at least about 4 to 5 minutes listening to some dialogue on YouTube. I have been using a channel called CCube Academy, and they have a bunch of French conversation dialogues. I'll first just listen to it, and then I'll listen to it a second time, and I will mimic what they're saying at the same time, so I can practice that conversation skill, even though it's not with a real person, of course. But it's at least just getting that feeling of practicing a conversation, even though it's not as good as having a real conversation with a person, but at least it got my speaking skills going. Finding ways just to express myself, even if it's just talking to myself. Then my last goal, this one actually has been the hardest, is finding a piece of French media and acting it out. So I did end up finding a clip here. I found one from Super Easy French, another YouTube channel. I really enjoy these videos because you get to learn French culture and language, and they put it in these videos that makes it really easy to digest. So I really like these videos, and there's a lot of them too, so you can watch on various different topics, whatever you're interested in. But I chose the easiest one, and I took the first minute of it and I actually wrote down the dialogue in my notebook of the first minute. I've practiced speaking it along with the video, and then from there, after I get some practice speaking the dialogue and getting comfortable with it, then I'll try recording myself and seeing what happens.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
C'est un arbre.
C'est un arbre.
Qu'est-ce que je vois?
Qu'est-ce que tu vois?
Je vois un arbre.
Je vois un arbre.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est un arbre. Qu'est-ce que tu vois? Je vois un arbre. C'est une voiture. Je vois une voiture. C'est un très beau vélo. Je vois un vélo. C'est une feuille. Cette feuille est verte. My iTalki tutor wanted me to schedule 2 lessons for my last day for week 5 to practice my conversation skills. He specifically wanted me to schedule 2 sessions because he wants me to have the same conversation with each tutor. So I would choose a topic I want to talk about, whether it's about my French learning or about a specific topic like my work or a hobby of mine, something like that, but finding some topic to talk about and talking about that same topic with both tutors. And I see the importance of that because you can try speaking on the topic with the first tutor and get some practice with it. And then when you do it the second time, then you're a little bit more comfortable. You are ready to hear the questions related to that topic, or you know maybe more words, phrases for that topic. So then the hope is that the second conversation will make talking about that conversation a little bit easier. But unfortunately, just in terms of my time with my work and me going back to school and all of that, it was hard to schedule in 2 conversations in one day. So I actually just booked 1 conversation for tomorrow in the afternoon time, and I'm gonna practice my French speaking skills. So I booked it for an hour, and I actually found a tutor that speaks both French and Japanese. So I'm actually gonna use half the lesson to practice my French conversation and then the other half to practice my Japanese speaking, just because it's something I need to practice anyway. So I thought it'd be a convenient way to sort of practice my conversational skills in both languages. Hopefully with at least the French conversation piece, I can see how much I've learned in the last 5 weeks, and even all the conversations that I've had in the last week with my friend's friend. I've learned a lot from those conversations, so I'm hoping I can take what I've learned and use it with this tutor and see how far I can get. Hope you enjoy. Ma famille est mon père, ma mère est seule Annie. J'ai Annie un chien qui s'appelle Boba.
Bois, oui.
I just finished my 5-week intensive program in French on iTalki, and I wanted to give you some of my thoughts about the program. I thought overall that it went really well. I actually, in the 5 weeks that I was learning French, I learned a lot more than I did self-studying a language for over a year. And I think a big part of that was really finding a way to work on something every day and working on not just taking in input, but also doing the output. I think both of those areas are really important. If you just have the input, like you're just listening to shows or you're just trying to read books and things like that, and if that's your only mode of input, I realize that it becomes much harder to try to speak if you try to speak much later on. Because for me, in the 5 weeks, the beginning was focused on the input, and then towards the end of the 5 weeks was focusing on output. And I actually felt like because I was sort of forced to use whatever I knew within the short amount of time, I actually felt better about my speaking skills, my comprehension skills. In French, I actually felt more confident in my skills to understand, basic conversations that were asked of me during lessons or what my tutor would be talking to me about. I felt like I could understand more and I could respond more, even just in the 5 weeks that I was learning French. So one of the big pros for me was the tutor. I think the tutor was a big part of why I was successful in the program. I think being able to check in with someone on a weekly basis sort of forced you to get things done. I think if I didn't have someone there or I didn't have a lesson booked, I would be more likely to push it off to the next day. Like, oh, I can always do it tomorrow, whatnot. But I think knowing I had a lesson coming up, I was like, okay, I better have something to show him that I've done. So I think having those check-ins was super helpful and kept me on point with my goals each week. The tutor was also very organized and he was very high energy. So I really learned a lot about how to manage my French learning, but also be able to practice some of my French skills with him and see where I'm at. I really appreciated learning from him and I've learned a lot from him. So thank you so much for helping me in my journey, because I don't think I would have gotten as far if I didn't have someone there to be guiding me along the way. I didn't think that in 5 weeks that I was going to be able to hold really any conversation, but I was surprised with just that amount of time how much I was able to remember and how much I was able to express. Another thing that I really liked about this course was it actually showed me some language discoveries. For example, like in French, the word for older sister is soeur amie. And because I've learned other Asian languages like Korean or Japanese, the word for sister sounds really similar to the French word for sister. So amie in French is ane in Japanese, and in Korean it's onni. So I think making those connections made it easier to remember French words or to remember structure, because I could relate things to each other. Another thing that I really liked about this course was the varying activities that the tutor provided during the 5-week course. I think if he had just given me one activity to do the entire time or one activity to do the entire week, I don't think I would have been able to keep it up. I think I would have lost my interest or lost my motivation. But I think because he varied up the different activities to do, I think having those varying activities really helped keep me on track during the 5 weeks, which is why like making these charts was really helpful for me. I was able to see my progress each day and make sure that I was staying on top of it and doing what I needed to do. In terms of the things that I felt could have been improved, could have been better, I think the one obvious one would be the activities that maybe are less interesting to someone, or you know that there's certain methods that don't fit your learning style as well. Like I know Anki doesn't fit my style very well, but during this challenge I tried my best to incorporate it, even though I'm not a big fan of it. But I feel like if you know something doesn't fit for you, don't try to push it on yourself, because it's just like putting a square in like a circle hole. Like it just doesn't, no matter how much you try to put it in, it's never gonna work. So there are so many other methods out there of learning that if something doesn't work for you, be able to adapt. And I think that's the biggest thing that I came out of this course with, was do not give up. You know, there are going to be things that are difficult, like the Anki. And when it does get difficult, what do? Are you just going to throw your hands up and not do it and just move on? What are you going to do? And I think the important thing is you know how to adapt. Another thing I wasn't a huge fan of was relying off of Google Translate for listening to French. When I had to put sentences in French or I had to say things in French on Hello Talk, I was using Google Translate to help me with everything. The problem is Google Translate just has this robotic sound to it, so it doesn't sound the most natural. So my problem was I didn't want to be learning my speaking through Google Translate and then sound like a Google Translate machine. You know, I think it's okay to start with and start your learning, but that you really have to expose yourself more to what the actual language sounds like. So, you know, going on YouTube or going on Netflix, whatever, so that or listening to music and actually hearing what actual French sounds like. And probably the one other thing that I noticed about the course that I think would be difficult for some people who are more introverted and they're more nervous about speaking with other people or just being able to reach out to other people. Like I said, big thing is being able to adapt to situations. So even if something makes you feel a little uncomfortable or something is getting difficult, you know how to adapt the situation and make it so that it works for you. And don't just give up. Don't just throw your hands up and, you know, walk away and not do it and just give up on the challenge. Find a way to make it work, continue on with the challenge so you can complete it all the way through. And so that's what, you know, I feel that in this program, I was able to get through the 5 weeks. Despite the difficulties I went through with the learning process, I felt like I was able to push myself, keep myself motivated with the help of my tutor. And I feel like I really learned a lot just in the 5 weeks I was doing the program. So I hope you enjoyed my journey. If you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the comments below. Please subscribe and click the like button. And thank you for watching. Bye.